Hi class, Michael, one of your classmates, asked me if I could take this rectangle class assignment and basically do it step by step. So here's the assignment that was in Blackboard. It says design a class for a triangle, have two fields, height and width, default on both to 1, create a no arc constructor, create another arc constructor that creates the rectangle listing both of the fields' height and width. Create my setters, my getters, and my toString. In addition, create a get area and a get parameter of the triangle. Draw a UML and include a test program that creates, I guess that means two TWO rectangles and displays the height, width, area, and parameter of each triangle. All right, so that's step 1. Step 2 is we read the instructions and hopefully we understand them. What I would normally do in step 2 is I would go to a program. Here I just went into Word and I said, I'm going to translate the steps from the assignment into step-by-step work called pseudocode. So step 1, I'm going to create a UML for the rectangle. It's going to have two fields, both of type double. I'm going to have the following methods: a no arc constructor, a two arc constructor. I'm going to generate my setters and getters, then my toString. I'm going to generate my, I'm going to have two other methods called get area and get perimeter. This one returns the area, this one returns the perimeter. Then I'm going to open Eclipse. I'm going to create a test class. Then I'm going to create the rectangle class. I'm going to go back into main, make a few triangles. In main, I'm going to display the width, the height, the area, and the parameter. And then I'm going to test this to make sure it works several times. All right, so what I would do next is I might copy this into an Excel spreadsheet. So let's take a look at an Excel spreadsheet. In an Excel spreadsheet, I better make sure I know, or let me show you what I did. I just pasted the assignment right here so I could see it. So there's the assignment as it was written, my assignment as written. So the next thing I said to myself is, hey self, what is the perimeter of, I found this online, it says poly, this is triangle. The perimeter of a triangle is the sum of heights of all sides. So I said to the Google, hey Google, how do I calculate the perimeter of a triangle, even though I knew how to do it. And I did the same thing for finding the area of a formula. Area equals height times width. So this adds up all four sides. This is height times width. Then what I did is I just came down here and said, hey, if the height was this, the width was this would be the area, this would be the perimeter. So I created some test cases, so that I can get a feel for what I'm doing. The next thing I did is I went to that Word document, that Microsoft Word document over here, and I used the snipping tool, and I just took that Word document or my pseudocode and I copied it and I pasted it over here in Excel. So over here in Excel, I have my test data, my assignment, my definitions. There's my pseudocode. The next thing I had to do was create the UML. So to create the UML, I'm going to do that in Excel. You could do it in Word. You could do it in Visio. I like it in Excel. I came into an Excel spreadsheet, and all I did was reformat the size of the columns, and I drew this thick black line. And a UML has the name of the table on the top, and then the fields above the black line. Minus means private, so I have private width, it's type double. Private height, it's type double. And then there should be a definition. We know what height and width are, but I did it anyway. This is the width of a triangle. This is the height of a triangle. Let's fix that. This is the height of a triangle. Here are all my methods in this class triangle. So there's my set width, my get width, my set height, my get height. This is the proper syntax to do a UML. If it returns something, you have the data type that it returns after the colon. If it doesn't, you don't. So these are all public. my set width, my set height, my toString, my get area, and my get parameter. There's brief definitions of all of those. So notice this is all in one document, and I can attach that entire spreadsheet and send it to my professor. Okay. All right, so I believe it's time to go into Eclipse and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Java project, and I'm going to call it The Triangle. Let me capitalize that. The Triangle project. So I'm going to hit Finish. And notice up here in Package Explorer, I can go into my SRC, right-click, say New Class. The class I'm going to have is my test class. All classes should start with a capital letter. And in my test class, I'm going to want a main. So that's where main is going to live. So here I am inside of my test class. Inside of my test class. I like to say goodbye to that. And sometimes I like to do this. End of main and end of test class. All right, so there's my test class, and we're going to use that to work with a triangle. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create the triangle. So I'm going to go and create the triangle. Let me show you that again. I'm going to come back over here to the SRC folder, right-click, say New Class. New Class. What I'm going to call this one is Triangle, capital T. This time I do not want a main. So now I have two classes, test class and triangle. So the first thing I do is I look at my UML and it says to create private. It says to create private double height and private double width. So I'm going to create height and width, and if you read the specs, it says to default them both to 1. Next thing I'm going to do is I am going to generate the no-arg constructor. I do not need to use source to do this, but just to demonstrate, I'm going to generate constructor using fields. I'm going to deselect the fields. No checks. I'm going to say OK. And there is a no-arg constructor. There, right there, is a no-arg constructor. I don't need that call to super, so I'll get rid of it. And then it says to create another constructor using the two fields. So I'll go back to source. I'll say generate constructor using fields. And I will then select the fields and say OK. I'll remove the call to super for now. Now, what I get is I get this dot height equals height. I don't like either of those two lines that were given to me. I'm going to use the setters and getters. Get height, set height. And I'm going to do the same thing for the width. So I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to replace using both the setters for the height and the width. So that's my constructor. So now I have two of them. I have the no-arg constructor, and I have the constructor bringing in the height and the width. I have errors because I haven't generated those two methods, so I'm going to generate both of those methods now. I'm going to do so using source, generate setters and getters, select all, and say OK. So there's my setters and my getters. Now I might want to put a little bit of validation in my setters. So instead of just saying set height, I might want to do something that just says, hey, I can't have a triangle with a height of 0 or negative numbers. So I might want to say if height is less than or equal to 0, what I'm going to do is go back to the default of -1. I can have all kinds of different validation code. I can talk to the user here and say, hey, you need to enter a value greater than 0 for the height. If I did that for the height, I would probably do that also for the width. I would probably do that for the width too. So some type of validation. And the reason in my constructor that I use the set and the height method instead of just the assignment operator is in case I do have validation, whatever I'm setting is going through these two set methods. All right, so now I have my set height and my set width, and I need to get a toString method. So my toString method is going to look like this. I'm going to say public string toString, and I'm just going to use a string variable, and I'm just going to format it so it looks pretty, height, and then I'm going to do a new line and then width. Notice I'm still using the get and the width, get height, get width methods. All right, I have two more methods to write according to the specs and according to my UML. Those two methods are the get area and get parameter. So those two methods are going to look just like this. The get area, I'm going to create a double, I'm going to return it, and we know the definition, it's the height times the width, and the parameter is the height times the width times 2, or height plus height, width plus width, or the formula I use. So there I am. I am completely done with this triangle class, completely, and I'm going to go back into the test class and actually do something with it. So in my test class, what I'm going to do, just for the heck of it, is I'm going to demonstrate using an array to do this. So I'm going to create in my test class an array of triangles, and I just set size equal to 5. So this is going to make me 5 elements in the array which will hold triangles. The first thing I'm going to do in this program is I'm going to populate or create each of these elements, making it a type triangle. And all I'm going to do is call the constructor in triangle, passing it I+1 and I+3, because I don't really care what the values are. And then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to output all of the information from the triangle, And I'm going to do that like this. So just want some lines above and below. So I'm going to loop through my array, and I'm going to print out the toString. This is going to say the height and the width. And then I'm going to create this statement. The area is, and I'm going to say array sub I dot get area, and the parameter is, and I'm going to say array sub I dot get parameter. That's it. This program is done. I'm going to test it. Test, test, test. I'm going to run it. And when I run it, there is my results. The first triangle was 1 and 3 is height and width. The area is 3. The parameter is 8. This plus this times 4 is times 2 is 8. Here's my second one, my third one, my fourth one, and my fifth one. I would place my spreadsheet with my UML and my pseudocode and my test cases inside of this SRC folder. I would leave Eclipse, zip it up, and submit it. This assignment's done. Any more questions, let me know.